What's up, people? Welcome back to Snackcast.
Hey, what's going on?
Not much. We are plugging through the great cholesterol myth, and this is...
chapter are we in?
What chapter is this? I think it's 7, I think. But
yeah, it's up there.
Doesn't really matter the number. We covered the first half of this chapter on the prior episode. So this is kind of... it's a pretty intensive chapter. It's breaking down the different types of saturated fats, and then the monounsaturated fats and the polyunsaturated fats.
Man, you're going to have to help me out with this one because this made my head explode a little bit.
So I wanted to summarize for the viewer, right? Saturated fats, there's a lot of different ones, and you got to get in the book to fully understand what makes them all different.
And at first glance, you're like, oh, that's a good saturated fat. And then you're like, oh, it's got some negative side effects. And that's like a common thing. It's like...
Right.
Your saturated fats, don't look at them as good nor bad, I guess was the takeaway.
Right. And so the saturated fats are, in large part, the animal fats, the dairy, the butter, that's your saturated. Now, right. They vary in that category. The monounsaturated are your healthy, non-processed, extra virgin vegetable oils.
Those are your
coconuts, your olives. Then the polyunsaturated are your processed vegetable oils.
Canola oil.
Soybean oil.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the main difference they broke out in the first half. Right? So in the second half, so what's the deal with vegetable oils? Why are they bad? Why is saturated and monounsaturated better for you than polyunsaturated? And they do a pretty good job of kind of breaking that down.
Yeah. Overall, they were mentioning, not to get it back into the total saturated fats and stuff, but I thought it was really interesting. They have a title here, the carbohydrate swap, and there are several studies that they alluded to that when people went on a low-fat diet, per se, they actually, some of their health markers got better. And what it alluded to wasn't just that they went on a low carb or a higher carb diet.
This is like LFHC, right?
Yeah,
low fat, high carb.
Low fat, high carb. And so there's as you get people coming around you going, you can lose fat. Oh, it's all in balance and it's all in calories, or it's all in, I lost weight in a low fat, high carbohydrate diet. They allude to that, and they say that if you are on a low-fat, high-carbohydrate diet, and the low-fat portion, or the high-carbohydrate portion is fruits and vegetables, it's not necessarily a bad thing. But what ends up happening is typically when people go low-fat, they go processed. They go vegetable oils, soybean oils, canola oils, and boxed food and processed food. That's typically the direction, and that's where you go off the cliff.
And that's right. So that's getting back to the polyunsaturated, and to kind of dig a little deeper here, right? There's omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids. And it turns out you need both. Right? And omega-6 is an inflammatory fatty acid. It inflames the body. But that's good because it's used in the immune system and a variety of other things, right? The omega-3s are anti-inflammatory. So they work in partnership to do very specific jobs. The problem is that the recommended ratio of 3s to 6s is like 1-to-1 or 1-to-4, somewhere in that range.
Right.
To your point, the Western diet that's boxed, packaged, sits in the pantry, you grab it off the shelf at Circle K. No offense, Circle K. I could have used 7-Eleven too. But that packaged stuff that's loaded with polyunsaturated, we're consuming more on the range of 15-to-1
to 40,
20-to-1.
Oh, I thought I saw a 40-to-1 number.
You may have. The one I saw was 15-to-20. They may have referenced another study or something.
So that's the level of breaking that down even further. That's like level of inflammation to.
It's not balanced.
Right.
You're not inflaming the body.
You're massively inflaming the body. So
And these are loaded up in the polyunsaturated, for clarity. The omega-6s are.
I'm on an extremely low carbohydrate diet. I eat lots of meats and on top of that, I eat, I rarely use vegetable oil in anything. I try never to. Canola oil. Occasionally I'll have a cheat day with some carbs or something, but that's very rare anymore for me. You're on strictly carnivore.
No. We do. I tell my wife, we call it God food. If God grew it, if it ate in the field or came off a tree or came out of the ground, we pretty much will eat it. We do try
Kingdom diet, right?
We do try and cut down on the high starch vegetables, your potatoes,
and even those. They alluded to some of that a little bit, and like, all right, if you gotta go somewhere with he broke down like the order of how you would, you eat those things. Or maybe actually it was somewhere else that I saw that. I might be confusing the two because I was reading another book about it.
Well, going back to your high carb, low fat diet, right? They kind of summarized why. And so again, if you do it without the processed food, so you're eating a lot of broccoli, a lot of potatoes, a lot of carrots, a lot of whatever, then you experience fewer inflammatory omega-6s because you're not eating the polyunsaturated, fewer high glycemic carbs. Should we get into high glycemic, low glycemic?
Probably not yet.
Okay. It's simply glycemic load and high or low glycemic is basically how does the sugar react in the body? Right. And high is bad, low is good. Right. A potato is low, a lollipop is high. Right. So fewer high glycemic carbs, more dietary fiber, and much less fructose and sugar.
Right. So it actually was.
So it has nothing to do with the elimination of saturated fats or monounsaturated fats, and more that you're really improving in other areas.
Almost. All right. If we're 1 to 4, right, in those ranges that we were talking about with the fatty acids, shouldn't your diet kind of reflect that as well? Shouldn't you be eating much more of the anti-inflammatory foods? Isn't that where we're traditionally going?
Sure. I mean,
and less of the substances that inflame us, and that is exactly the opposite of what the Western diet does.
Of course.
Right. So anyway, it was in the book that I saw that. Good carbs include the following foods: fruits, vegetables, beans, and legumes. Bad carbs cover almost all the carbs that come in a box with a barcode: cereals, white rice, pastas, breads, cookies, pastries, snacks, sodas, juice, crackers. We talked about muffins before and how that's deemed as people, it's a blueberry muffin, it's good for you. Wrong, it's not good for you.
Because it's loaded with this stuff. And, again, obviously kind of the point of the second half of this chapter is they're really beating up the polyunsaturated fats.
And I think that's the funny thing because, these are great back-to-back chapters because we talked about the extreme toxicity of sugars in the last chapter. And now you couple that sugars and vegetable oils. I hate to be to
your point, your blueberry muffin,
a fatalist, but you're on a wrong path.
Yeah,
fast.
You got oxidation, glycation, and inflammation
all in one
body in one brand muffin,
in one beautiful blueberry muffin. It's like. Yeah, and that's what overall we're not preaching this information enough. The powers that be aren't getting this information out and saying, "Hey, we screwed up on the food pyramid. Hey, we screwed up on the MyPlate. We sorry we did a disservice for you." And they're still preaching the canola. And there's a whole big case for canola on here. This was great as well.
Oh yeah,
talking about how horrific canola oil is.
There was a doctor that said, "I won't put that crap in my body," or something like that.
God, what did he say? Something along those lines. Anyway, I would never use this stuff. And then there's a whole a lady that wrote a book about it, and they in the book she called it the Great Canola.
Yeah. I forgot about that too.
Coconut oils, olive oils, saturated fats. Your lards. If you're cooking, Butter is good for you. I'd be cooking. It was long, grass-fed butter.
Grass-fed's better. Yeah.
I'd be cooking with that stuff versus
the kind of, I forget what it was called, microglobin or something like that. But the healthy fats they're like it's like a middle with a fluffy outside and then a lining around that and whatever. As we process it, we break those down. And that's in large part why the polyunsaturated are so bad. Because they've been fully broken down, and they barely resemble natural fats at that point.
Yeah. So, gosh, I mean, this was really a good chapter, beating up the vegetable oils. And you and I have talked about that on a past podcast, and we reflected. I think we showed a graph talked about the graph of obesity in North America to when all of these different oils were actually introduced, if you recall. I don't know, 100 snack casts ago or something, but...
Well, I do remember specifically soybean oil is one that it really took off, I think in the early 70s, was discovery and then promulgation into the food supply. And in fact, Jerry had some interesting...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. We're going to have to talk...
as well, so it may be a double banger.
Right.
That happened. We need to mark that. Mark that for a future Snackcast.
The hive. That's the epicenter. I mean, it seems like it's the epicenter of the food. It's like all right, sugar takes off and your vegetable oils and canola oils take off.
We'll do that.
And there's actually some interesting political ramifications around that as well.
We'll do that as a separate Snackcast.
I'd love that. Maybe take that on. That'd be great.
What happened. So Kevin mentioned this was like a 20-page chapter. It was pretty long. We've obviously broken it into two chunks, but they did a pretty good job of summarizing the entire chapter.
We made it long.
We took 20 minutes of podcasting time, but should we read it?
Just go ahead and read it.
All right. So what you need to know. Bullet point number 1. Saturated fat actually refers to a family of fatty acids, each with different health effects. Some good, some bad, some neutral. It isn't a single nutrient. It's a family containing many different fatty acids, each with different health effects. Bullet number 2. Saturated fat has been wrongfully demonized. Several recent studies have shown that saturated fat is not associated with a greater risk of heart disease. And finally, bullet 3, the balance between dietary intake of omega-6 and omega-3 is far more important than dietary intake of saturated fat. Do you remember when you were in school and the teacher would go, Kevin, you read the next chapter, and you're like, oh, don't mess it up, right? Hopefully I didn't mess that up.
No, it was great. That second bullet point, saturated fat has been wrongfully demonized. And it led into this whole chapter in the very beginning, and what we talked about on the last Snackcast was that saturated fat does raise your cholesterol, and cholesterol is bad, right? No, wrong. Cholesterol is not bad. Yeah. It's neither bad nor good, right? It's a poor measurement. Total cholesterol is a very poor measurement of overall coronary risk and overall health.
Yeah,
it's a very poor measurement.
So can I share with you a cheat that I had over this past weekend?
Yeah.
So my youngest, Everett, soccer player, plenty athletic, always moving. He likes Cheez-Its, and we get him at Sam's Club, and the boy mows through some Cheez-Its, right? Good. They were sitting on the counter along with room temperature butter. If you've never dipped a Cheez-It in butter, oh my gosh, the heavens parted and angels sang.
So how did you do?
It was wonderful. I only ate like 10 of them, and when I say I took the Cheez-It like a spoon.
Butter's good for you. Like the lie that we've been told. Man.
Gosh, it was so good. If you can package that, you killed the whole country.
Oh yeah. Death by Cheez-It.
Death by Cheez-It. So, you got anything else?
No, that's good.
All right. Wrapping up Chapter 7, I believe it was. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, hit us at snackcast@yes.fit.
Stay moving.
See ya.